Hello and welcome back to Sarah's Spare Corner. My name is Sarah. I am the host of Sarah's Spare Corner. Sarah's Spare Corner encompasses gaming, as well as I like sharing theories, concepts, and ideas as I am a philosophy major. Additionally, when I am not poor, I might travel places and I might post about it. But today we are conquering my fourth that I sometimes go towards, which is my creative side. I like creating things. I like, doing things with my hands. Anyways, I am working currently, as you can see here, on a pot. I tried sanding it down. I'm going to explain what it's for, but I tried sanding it down. Didn't work. I thought maybe sanding would take away the polish. That'd be easier to paint on. The answer is no. And what I ended up trying to do worked out anyway. So this was a birthday gift for a friend of mine. My friend who is actually, my mod. So hello if you're watching this. This was a birthday gift or Christmas gift. I can't even remember what I bought it for. This was years ago. And I bought the pot years ago, but I never did anything with it until recently. I finally did something about it. I was nervous, really. I think that's the reason why I didn't do it for so long, and I kept overthinking it, and then I had all these other projects I wanted to do, but I was like, nah, I finally got to do this. So, if you're wondering why I keep putting up my thumbs, I was actually live streaming this, and so that was my way of communicating with people without actually talking to people. This is the recording I took from my DSLR, though, so it's a lot better quality than it is from the webcam. And I had several things that I wanted to accomplish with this because I really couldn't figure out in my mind what I wanted to paint. My friend told me years ago, she's like, I would really love a hand painted pot. And I'm like, what the heck am I going to paint? Like, I feel like if I paint cherry blossoms, it's going to be butchered. So I came up with two different ideas. One side was going to be these photos that you see me cutting up. These are photos of us when we were in London and Edinburgh to get together in 2022, I believe it was. And I figured I could use this Mod Podge method where I photo transfer to a either fabric or a different type of metal. And I wasn't sure if this would work out, so I was actually completely nervous this entire time, being like, I don't know, but also like, I gotta finally get a move on because I keep second guessing this. So what you would do is you would take the photo, print it out on your printer, which I didn't have a colored printer, so I was like, I didn't have any colored paint. So I was like, well, this is fine. I should say I didn't have color ink. There we go. So I used black and white photos, which I feel like contrasted really well with what I ended up doing on the other side. Here I am trying to like smooth out some of the crevices so that it doesn't look too weird. And also I get a lot of Mod Podge in my hands. Honestly, I gotta stop doing crafts in this basement because it is so unventilated that I'm pretty sure it makes me sick. It's one of the reasons why I don't like to paint as much down here, because I can't just simply open a window to let certain smells out. Ugh. But whatever, I'm going to be moving soon, so I don't have to worry about that soon. So here's what you would do. You would, use Mod Podge on the ink side of things. And then you would use Mod Podge on the opposite side of the photo. Make sure that it kind of, because it acts like kind of like a white glue. And then you would kind of smooth out all the edges and then let it dry. So in a couple of seconds, you'll see me moving around the pot and removing myself from this side of the making of the pot. Also, I hope you have like a nice drink to kind of chill with right now. I'm drinking some green matcha. Yes, I'm sure on some level this is unprofessional, but who cares? Anytime I do these long form voiceovers, I'm rarely professional. I think the only one I've ever done professionally was like the very first one where I painted the Pillars of Egernoth. And if you're wanting to see that, you could probably I'll put a link to it in the top right, but that was definitely one of my favorite paintings I've ever done. I want to do another Lord of the Rings painting. Anyways, this is not about next paintings. I still have to finish my Audrey Hepburn painting. But as I'm letting this dry, I was going to move on to the next section. I don't know when that is. Oh, I needed water. That's what was going on. I'm like, what is happening here? I think actually what I do first, now I remember, I think I work on, oh no, I'm wrong. Sorry. I thought I would like remove the back side of the Mod Podge, but no, it looks like we're going in here. So the significance of this pot, I think, was my friend is very much a memory kind of person, very much like a together experience kind of person. So I was trying to think of ways where I could kind of attach that to this painting. And I came up with this idea. So I used the photos that I took of us, or she took of us in London, in Edinburgh. And then on the other side, I thought, why don't I try to paint English ivy? It's objective whether or not I even did it, but you know, when she got her pot, spoiler alert, she absolutely loved it and sending me a nice heartfelt video of her crying. I was like, bro, if anything, I failed you because I should have given you this pot years ago. But anyways, so my plan was to paint English ivy on the one side of the pot, and it was kind of questionable. If you see that photograph there, that is actually my reference photo because, again, I was streaming at the same time, so I didn't have any like way to double check my references in any other way. Usually what I would do when I was in my art classes, I'd, you know, kind of print out the images that I wanted to kind of mimic and then tape them to the wall around me. But I don't really have like a lot of space around me right now, so I figured I'd just use it in front of me like this. And I think the brushes I used, because I wasn't like certain that it would come out nicely, I kind of used this really, like, I think it was a dollar store paintbrush. Honestly, sometimes dollar store paintbrushes just slap. That's right. So I think what I ended up doing is first going in with the darker colors and then slowly going out into light. I've kind of noticed over the years when I'm painting, I kind of want to start with the base layer, which is always darker, and then bring out more light as the layers go on. So that was kind of my intention when I was painting this one, was to go with the darker tones. And then I think here, yeah, you see me bringing in with like a burnt sienna, I think it is. I think what I used is I used raw umber, which is a very dark brown, and then I went in with burnt sienna. And then I think here I might be going in with maybe the gold. I'm trying to see, what am I doing here? No. What? Oh, nope. I think, oh no, that's the gold. Sorry. So I just finished up with the burnt sienna, it looks like. And now we're going in with the gold, which at the end, I will be honest, the umber and the sienna basically kind of disappeared. You don't even really see them in the end, but you know what, those layers are important. Oh yeah, and then I also thought it would be kind of nice to put the lid on the pot and paint on the lid as well, so that there was a little bit more connection to the other side of the pot. Honestly, like, I wouldn't say this is the best painting job I've ever done, but my friend really liked it, and I think that's all that matters, even if I don't really care for it. And why am I making this video? YOLO reasons? I don't know. But yeah, honestly, like, I think my favorite part of painting generally is painting branches. I don't know why. I think maybe because they're so ununiform that you can kind of do whatever you want with the lines and then it'll still look good. I think with generally when it comes to lines, I have a very shaky hand and I'm not very good at making straight lines. So branches kind of create this nice compromise that you're creating a line, but there's no wrong line, if that makes sense. Oh yeah, I think there were a couple of spots where I was like, oh, well, that was too much gold. And then I think we might be going in, yes, with the green now. But I'm trying to like mix in the colors so I can get like a little bit of a color, a base color. And I think I was definitely starting to sweat at this moment because I'm remembering like, oh, I don't know if this is going to how it looks. And the first couple of leaves, I'm going to be honest, they don't look like English ivy. There's definitely a couple that don't. From far away, it's not that big of a deal. But up close, I was just like, no, 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 no. I don't want this. I don't like this. Like, and then I also was like, I can't really remove this though, because if I do, I'm going to smear all the underpaints because I didn't let anything dry. So you're in like this really weird space where you kind of just have to accept that that leaf is not a proper leaf and you're just going to have to deal with it. It's so hard. Also, like, I don't generally like, yeah, that leaf was the worst one. I'm remembering which ones are really bad. And then I think I do take a pause shortly to kind of try to figure out how to fix it, because I didn't like the leaves at all at the very beginning. I was like, I feel like I need to apologize to my friend in advance. But yeah, I think art is funny because I tend to, when it comes to art, I have a method that kind of works for me. I think some artists, what they'll do is they'll just start painting and then something comes out. Whereas for me, I generally am like going on about my day, or I'm picking up things and I see something or I hear something that kind of gives me some kind of inspiration. And I think that was why I couldn't start this pot, is I couldn't think of the inspiration that was going to lead most of my painting. And then I came up to the conclusion, well, my friend's coming to visit me, if now would be the time to give her the pot. And then kind of it came to me eventually. Hi, Morticia. So for me, when it comes to art, I can't just simply sit down and just start doing stuff. I generally need to have like at least a thought in my mind, which ends up being my plan. Whether or not it's actually a very solid plan. Because the thing is, when you have, because I'll visually see it in my mind. If I can visually see the art that I want to accomplish, it doesn't necessarily turn out that way, which is also something that I find tends to be a little difficult to overcome, because it's not a perfectionism issue. I definitely, when I was younger, used to deal with a lot of perfectionism issues, whereas now it's just the starting is the problem, because I can't seem to find the image in my mind where I want to go with. It's kind of like sometimes when I'm just like saying something to someone, I'll just have a phrase come out and I'm like, that sounds like something I would want in a song. And then I'll like go to my iPhone and I'll write it down immediately. And this is how I tend to work with my creativity, is I just kind of, I don't know, if you've ever seen the movie Music and Lyrics with Drew Barrymore, I think a lot in the way that she thinks about creativity. I'm not saying that everything is what I do, because she definitely is very feelings based and I'm just more like, I think about things. So like when it comes to art, I have to have some kind of thought that leads me to the direction where we go. When the Pillars of Agarnoth, it came to me, I don't even remember how it did, but I was thinking about that scene in the movie of The Lord of the Rings, and the image of that scene where they're passing the two pillars of Agarnoth and then the three boats. I was like, I don't know why, but this just seems like a really good painting. And then I was like, well, you know what? I could probably do it for my final project for this art class. And then that kind of worked out. And it was the same thing with Audrey Hepburn. I'd always wanted to do an Audrey Hepburn painting. And the thought just came to me where I was like, oh, well, I could paint her like this, because I really wanted to do the words. And then like I kind of played around with like options in Photoshop, like, oh, I could do it this way or this way kind of thing. There's still a lot to do for Audrey, so I'm not finished there. But like this one, I think it was kind of the same thing. I can't even remember what in my mind made me think, oh, I'm going to paint English Ivy. You know what? I think what it was is, now that I'm thinking about it, when my friend said she wanted a painted pot, and like all I could think of is, so you want me to do like a cherry blossom painted pot? But all I thought was, I don't know if I want to do that, because I don't think I'd do it justice. And then I thought, well, I could probably paint English Ivy, because that's something that's like meaningful to two of us. Like, We both went to London together. We both talked about maybe chopping off a branch and bringing it home, but then we found out it was apparently illegal, so we're like, okay, never mind. So I was like, but it was something that we talked about because I'm very much into plants, and I think she's pretty much like open to plants. I don't know if she actually has any plants though. I've never visited her house. She lives in a different province. But yeah, I think the English ivy came to mind, and then I was like, well, what else could I do? Because do I want to paint the entire pot with English ivy, or perhaps something else might come to mind? And I think that's when I came up with the photo transfer idea, because I had been working a lot with photo transfer anyway in a lot of my previous paintings, like Audrey Hepburn and stuff like that. So, not to say that Audrey Hepburn is a photo transfer. No, the words behind the Audrey Hepburn painting is the photo transfer. But anyways, just want to clarify. But I think that was kind of my direction with this one, is just the way that I think about art. I was discussing this something about the way that we process things creatively. And they asked me, they're like, well, like when you get stressed, because we were talking about stress, they're like, do you do art? They're like, because I'm really into poetry and writing. I'm like, I have two different spaces in my mind. I think when I'm like feeling something, there's a mood that's going on in my life, maybe an overarching mood that I can't really place into words. I do put that into like, I'll just sit down at my computer and I'll open my notes and I'll just type out a whole bunch of words and phrases, things that I think can maybe relate to each other. Sometimes I'm just in the shower and I think of something and then a phrase comes to me and I write it down. So sometimes it is like a mood that I experience, and sometimes it's just a conversation I'm having with somebody, because I do tend to explore a lot of ideas. But when it comes to painting, I think I'm hesitant to bring my emotions into it. Not because I don't think painting can't be a very expressive thing in terms of emotions, because I have like painted nonsense things with emotions, but I didn't take it seriously. It wasn't like, oh, that is a thought I wanted to do, now I'm going to bring it into my artwork. I don't really like to do that, because generally when it comes to painting, I do need like some kind of initiative or some kind of initial idea prior to me going into it. And then I know that I don't want to bring that into the space when I'm painting, because that's where you start getting a little bit harder on yourself in the middle of painting. So it's actually kind of healthy for me to do that, because then I can regulate myself in time as I'm painting, and I can think, oh, like, yes, this is, not perfect, but that's exactly the point. It's not supposed to be perfect. And I think that was something I challenged myself with a lot when I was younger. I used to draw a lot when I was angry, and then I would get really hard on myself. But as I've gone older, I think art has been more of a, this is a special place for me, and I'm going to enter it in a good mind. So that at least if I come to the point where I am not feeling well, I can easily walk away. Like, there's been tons of times where I've been in the middle of painting, and then I just start getting mad. And so what I end up doing is I'll usually like get out of my chair or whatever, and I'll put the paintbrush down and I'll take like 5 steps away from the painting and I'll just look at it. I'll take a picture of it. I might get a glass of water, and there might be a big space in between, or there might be like 2 minutes. Like sometimes it just takes like a couple of seconds to just kind of shake it off. Which is why painting is so healing for me, because I do force myself to take those breaks. But this is why I don't tend to like working with acrylic as much as oil. Like, I'm working with acrylic in this painting because oil painting on a pot would be kind of wild. But I usually prefer oil because oil can be wet for up to a week. Whereas acrylic, if you don't use it within like a couple of hours, it's dry and it's useless. And for me, I enjoy the fact that there is a slow period in which you can come back to the painting. Now, obviously, there's additives that you can add into acrylic painting so you can avoid that acrylic drying as fast, but I much prefer like only adding additives if it's necessary. Like, maybe like a texture additive to paint or something like that, like I have done in a previous painting. But I think when it comes to oil painting, I much enjoy the fact that I can just step away and I can take a breather and I can look at it a different angle. And then on top of that, it's a little bit more forgiving because then you can just get your palette knife and scrape off whatever you did or get paper towel and wipe that off. Whereas like acrylic, it's like once it's on there, unless you paint over it, it will never leave. Which is also why I'm not like a huge fan of it. There isn't like a lot of space for mistakes, whereas oil encourages mistakes. And that's also something very beautiful to me. Even though I'm like doing acrylic for this video, so it's kind of silly that I'm like, you know, praising oil. Here's what I like about acrylic. I like that it's pretty versatile. Like if you're going to use acrylic, you can paint on top of it oil. Like you can do a base layer of acrylic and then paint on top with oil. But you can't do the reverse. You can't do a base layer of oil and paint on top with acrylic. I like acrylic because in some cases it is fast drying, so there is like a little bit more of a harshness to the paint. So if I want something a little bit more stiff, I tend to work with acrylic. Like in this case for the pot, because it is like the pot is already glazed, acrylic works really well with it because acrylic already has some kind of stickness to it. So you can add a layer of acrylic on top of the gloss and there's not going to be like chipping issues. And I do later, you don't see this in this video, but I did end up doing like 6 layers of a protective seal over the entire pot, which brought out the photographs much better. And it also brought out a lot of the shine on the pot much better. So it should, in theory, go in the dishwasher if the person wanted to, which I also don't think they should. But like at least they could hand wash it or something like that. But whereas like with oil, you really couldn't do something like that. You can wash oil paintings with like soap and water. So if it gets dusty or something like that, the nicest you can get over it with soap and water. But there is also like if you don't seal oil paint, it will crack after a certain period of time. Which I think acrylic does that too, but it's a little bit more solid. It lasts longer because it is more of a plastic made paint, whereas oil paint is made from natural chemicals, so it does lose its grip over time. But also like the oil, because the layer of the pot was more glossy, the oil wouldn't have been able to catch as much to the pot. I don't know. At least that's what I theorize. I could be very wrong about that. So if you want to like test it out on your own time and tell me if I'm wrong, go ahead. I don't know. That would be interesting to see oil paint on a glossy pot. I don't know if it would work though. But as you can kind of see, things are getting a little bit more layered. I think I start adding, like a lighter green to the leaves so that there's a little bit more texture to each leaf, and that is kind of how I rectify a lot of my mistakes. I think Bob Ross actually taught me a lot of things about painting when I first started out. There was when I first started using my palette knife, he would paint a lot with a palette knife. Like I've only seen like 3 videos. I wouldn't like watch him nonstop, but I definitely saw a couple of videos and I was like, oh, I want to try a palette knife. And then that's how I ended up painting the Pillars of Agarnath. But the layers of the Pillars of Agarnath working with a palette knife made me realize why layers are so important when it comes to painting. And so I knew that even though I made some mistakes on the leaves of this pot, I also knew that I could kind of fix some of those mistakes with just a little bit of a lighter paint and even some white. And so that's why we're kind of going in here. There's definitely some that are just permanently messed up. And, you know, that's the part of being a human, is there are going to be things that just are not perfect. And nor do I want it to be perfect, because that's just not, it's not real, you know. Not to say that these leaves are real, but but like there's character in things that are not perfect. As long as you can acknowledge that there is imperfection. There was like this streamer I used to watch, and they would just like every 5 minutes talk about how something wasn't perfect. And I'm like, yeah, maybe that person's kind of struggling with stuff on their own internal side, but it almost like, it felt defeating because they mentioned it so much. Like, this isn't perfect, but it's okay, it's not perfect. But they mentioned it so much that it almost felt like they were miserable, that it wasn't perfect. And even though I can catch myself into talking about perfection, I also want to catch myself in doing it because I don't want to think that way. I think definitely I had that issue when I was younger. Definitely an issue of perfection. And now as I'm older, I have to like catch myself, because accountability. I have to catch myself when I'm thinking like that or when I'm talking like that, because I have to hold myself accountable. And I think it's the kind of the same thing with this pot or any form of painting. Things are not always going to turn out the way you want it to. Sometimes things will be easier to fix, and other things, they're just unfixable, and that's okay. So what we're seeing here is when you use the Mod Podge, because it's dry now, photo transfer, then what you do is you come back in later when it's dry with a wet paper towel or a cloth, and you dab on it, and then on the area where the Mod Podge is, and then you use your finger to slowly roll off some layers of the Mod Podge. And that is how this comes out. And the nice thing is this pot actually, because there were a couple of pieces that did peel off the entire photo, but the majority of the photos, all 3 of them, actually came out really nice. They were also very easy to peel off. Usually I don't have this easy of a time. When I peeled off the photo transfer on the Audrey Hepburn painting, that took 8 hours, if not more. I remember 2 days just doing nothing but peeling off the paper. Whereas these ones only took 20 minutes, I think. So that was kind of nice. But it is a smaller section too. So, it's not even comparable to Audrey Hepburn. But these photos, I think the middle one is us on the London Eye. We did the champagne experience because, if you're going to go on the London Eye, why not? And then I think the third one is actually her in the Van Gogh Museum exhibit in London. But I don't know if it shows up, you don't really see it here, because I can see what they are, but you can't really see them. But when I sprayed them with the layer of the protective material, then it had no problem of coming out. So even though it seems kind of faded here, later when I end up sealing it, it looks a lot more clear and solid, and they actually look like photographs, which is really nice. And also good to know in the future. I think though that kind of happened with me with the Audrey Hepburn painting, because I did do the photo transfer of the words on the back of Audrey Hepburn, and then I did another layer, a light layer of Mod Podge, just to bring out the words a little bit more, and that kind of brought out the words even more so. And so that was kind of the same experience with this photo transfer on the pot. But I was really nervous, if the words would, not the words, if the photos on this pot would come out, have much more of an issue or not. The nice thing is when I used the spray to seal in the photographs, I was wrong. I was so glad I was wrong too, because I was really nervous that the photos would just kind of fall off or disintegrate or something, but instead the seal made the photos even stronger and more apparent. And I think that first photo there, that one I'm working on now, is us outside of the castle in Scotland. So the Edinburgh Castle, I think it is. No, that's not right. I'm so sorry. I haven't been since 2022. I'd love to go back. I'm actually going to Google this quickly because I'm going to be very embarrassed. I wanted to say it was okay, hold on. Edinburgh Castle. Oh, it is the Edinburgh Castle. Okay. Good to know I wasn't completely wrong. Oh my God. I was I feel like I'm insulting so many people right now. Yeah, no, I was right. It is the Edinburgh Castle. But maybe the pronunciation of Edinburgh might be more embarrassing. But anyway, so here I am trying to just, because there were a bunch of Mod Podge layers that were stuck on because of how much Mod Podge I put on the pot, that I really didn't want that extra weird layer of glue basically on the pot. So here I am just kind of getting rid of those layers. But we're getting close to the end of the video. If you've done ever done something like this before, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. I am very much into different types of crafts. I'm definitely going to be returning to Audrey soon. I recently just bought one brush. And if I get more money from my income tax, then I will buy the rest of the brushes I need to finish Audrey Hepburn up. I think, though, I'm also starting to feel that weird tension that I'm like, what if I mess it up kind of thing? Because I'm at the last leg. So I need to have, like, you know, I need to just kind of get into the mindset and be like, you can do this and finish Audrey up, because we were so close to the end. But I'm very excited that this pot turned out. I'm very excited that my friend loved the pot, even though I was doubting it every single step of the way. And I don't think I will ever do anything like this again, just because it was not something that I feel like I can really replicate to the same form. It was just definitely a unique present for a friend who asked for something unique. But thank you so much to everybody who's been watching this video. I hope that you have a lovely morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you're watching this. Leave a comment down below whether or not you want to see more art forms like this. I'm just kind of, shaking off all the mess and trying to show the stream people what I did here. But anyways, I hope to see you in the next video, and thank you so much for watching. Bye now!